Hi, I'm Natasha Natarajan and I am a member owner of Outlandish Cooperative. We are a digital agency based in North London, and I work specifically on our Space 4 project, which is our kind of community outreach and cooperative development project. We run a workspace in Finsbury Park, and it's we've designed it as a hub for co-ops, for new economy, for local economy, and we work closely in partnership with Islington Council, to create space for people interested in alternative types of business. My personal journey with cooperativism started in 2021. I was a freelancer working in the creative industries, and I was frustrated with the precarity of my labour and the conditions of my conditions of my work life. And so I decided to do a master's to try and professionalise basically and get a proper job. I thought it might make me more employable. But what I discovered during my master's is that the precarity that I was feeling, I was not alone in it, and it was a systemic problem of the industry. And I became quite politicised over worker politics and discovered a whole body of research around how co-ops can solve some of the problems of freelance work. And so I wrote my dissertation on it, and I ended up doing a case study of the co-op I actually now work for. And so, I think my interest in co-ops is really born out of frustration with the atomized way that we've been encouraged to work in the neoliberal economy. I'm really critical of this idea of creative entrepreneurship and doing it for yourself, doing what you love, doing it on your own. Co-ops have been running for quite a long time, and they've developed ways of working collectively, which I find really interesting. I really love using sociocracy. That's the tool that we use in our co-op to make decisions together, and that's really transformed how I see the world a little bit, and how I see working with other people and making decisions together. I think it's quite transformative personally to be working in a business that you can own, and there's a real opportunity for creating more collaborative ways of not only working but living through working at a co-op. It teaches you skills that you can use in all areas of your life. So I think that's a huge opportunity. And I mean, the economy is totally ruined by capitalism and extractive types of business models. And I don't really see, what I like about co-ops is that they can exist under capitalism and challenge it. It's tangible. Other ways that we try to fight the system are very long term and feel somewhat impossible at times. Whereas what I like about the co-op movement is that it exists. There are worker co-ops. You can start one, and you can take a step toward realizing your values. I think that's a real opportunity. People think it's utopian, impossible. I almost find it hard to talk about because people sort of shut down as if I'm a hippie. Do you know what I mean? So I think that's a real barrier. People don't take co-ops seriously, don't think of them as a serious business model. So I think there needs to be more education around the fact that what we think of as normal is a choice. That extractive business isn't the only way to do business. Co-ops are ultimately businesses, and we need to be selling work and services to hopefully the public sector. I've been on and on about it today, but I think there's that's a challenge. That's both a challenge and an opportunity, actually, that we need to grow, and we need to grow to be able to deliver bigger projects. And we need people to take us seriously so that they give us bigger projects. The type of people that are attracted to co-ops, I experience tend to be white, of a certain demographic. I'm not entirely sure why that is. But I suppose it comes again down to that knowledge of what even is a co-op, and people of colour maybe not recognising that they have worked in cooperative ways but haven't called it co-ops. And I think cooperative is maybe too connected to like bureaucracy and a legal structure that's alienating, because it's actually just a form of collective business or something. So I find that sad. I find it quite hard to talk to. I mean, there's one barrier just talking to general people about co-ops, but I do find it especially hard to talk to like my family about it. They don't really understand what I do, and I even lack the language sometimes to talk about what it is, because you get so caught up in like all these words like, oh, it's democratically controlled, or it's, you know, democratically owned, and I don't know, it just, that, I guess that political angle of co-op sometimes alienates people. That it's quite, or the way that I see it is politicized as like left-wing politics in some way. And I like that it is, but I think some people feel that don't want to be involved with politics because they've been historically excluded from it. So it kind of makes sense. We need capacity in people to be able to create connections and have time and space to develop like meaningful relationships, because I think there's a lack of trust between co-op type organizations, Co-ops UK, like these institutional bodies, and communities that have the potential to work cooperatively or are already working cooperatively. And we need people like what, you know, basically what you have been doing, to connect the two, and that takes time. It can't happen over a project fund, you know, it has to happen in a core funding way over a long period of time to really nurture that connection. So I think it's about building partnerships and like seriously funding infrastructure, which is, I think, people and not outputs and deliverables, because you also have to discover what the outputs and the deliverables are while nurturing a relationship. I think worker co-ops are probably a bit different from like housing and, you know, these other type of member-owned co-ops. And what I really like is that you are owning the business with other people, so you're sharing the responsibility, and there's a lot of trust, and, you know, in a good co-op, I guess, there's a lot of trust and emotions that are shared between members, in our co-op at least. And I do feel really supported by my team. And I think co-ops in general have a culture of like, you know, bringing emotion into work. And so I have had a cry to my colleagues before when things are too much. And so I think that is quite a big thing I feel that I can talk about when I'm not doing well, and I don't feel too embarrassed about it, a little bit. But like, yeah, I feel that my team supports me to do that. But beyond that, I think, you know, in our co-op, we do have money for members to seek, like to spend some amount of money on well-being, for example, I think a quarter a year, maybe even a month. We also have a coach, like a organizational coach, who we see every 2 weeks, who helps us as us as members talk about anything really, but it tends to be like difficult, not day-to-day running of the business, but like more, could be emotional, maybe it's like business strategy, but it is a space to explore some like more difficult topics in a facilitated way. And yeah, generally, I mean, it's amazing to be in a co-op. Like, I'm sad, I'll be sad one day, and my co-op members will be like, let's go out for lunch on the business, you know, because we are the owners of the business. We can spend the business's money. So there is something empowering about that. Even when it's hard, there are these amazing benefits.